We exist to tell nerds that Jesus loves them.
LTN is a nonprofit organization, and we exist to be the love of Jesus to nerds and nerd culture.
We go to Comic Cons, nerd conventions, and board game shows all over the country. We go to these places to love and serve our nerdy neighbors.
There's a big divide between the church and nerd culture. Nerds have a misconception a lot of times about the church, and church definitely has a misconception about who nerds are. As an organization, we want to be a bridge that can gap that and tell a different story to nerds about who Jesus is and what the church is and their role in society and in the world, to the church about who nerds are, what nerds love, why what they love matters, and how to love them better.
We engage nerd culture from a Christian perspective for the goal of loving nerds, and speaking their language and engaging their world, but also for the sake of educating the church on the value of nerd culture and why it's worth engaging, why it's worth understanding, why it's worth thinking about thoughtfully and critically and Christianly.
I think that we think of missions as going to another country and building houses or, helping out an orphanage or any of these, which are really great things to do. But it doesn't have to be there. There are people that are hurting in your community. Be with those people, find those hurting people. There are people, there are nerds, there are gamers, there are, fill in the blank, that are hurting, and they're just looking for someone to listen to them. There's a mission field in your city.
And that's what Love Thy Nerd does, is we focus on the simple phrase that Jesus loves you, nerd. And we say that unapologetically. And we can define a win by getting somebody not to balk at that, or by getting somebody on the other side of the fence to understand that there is value in the church, that though you may not be a religious person, you can still find value in beauty from the traditions and the things that the church has to offer. And same thing vice versa on the nerdy side, that they can see how nerds are valued because there are great and wonderful and deep rich relationships that are being made online and also across a table as we share a game.
We want to help educate and dispel those myths that there are nerds in all walks of life. There are nerds who are lawyers, there are nerds who are doctors, there are nerds who are astrophysicists, there are nerds who do everything you can think of under the sun. Most nerds are not just children, that there are nerds who are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and that they are not just wasting their time on these hobbies, and that these hobbies have a place in the world, that they have more than just passive entertainment value.
150 million Americans play video games regularly. Avengers Endgame made $1.2 billion in its opening weekend. Dungeons & Dragons is more popular now than it ever has been in its 45-year history. Like, in 45 years, we think that's weird. I think a lot of people look at Dungeons & Dragons and are like, that's weird. But it's massively popular. So we are nerds, and we live in a culture of nerds. You're a nerd even though you don't realize it. Like, this is our world. And so either we engage that thoughtfully and Christianly, or we miss a huge opportunity to reach people and love people and point them to Jesus.